In case you missed it, this video is hilarious. Let's watch this video together. I already saw it. I saw the video, but it was that funny. Give this video a like, give Earthling's Ed a subscribe. Hit him up on that subscribe notification button and like this video. Let's get into it. Oh wait, let me turn off this Halloween music. Okay, sorry, I was feeling very festive.
If God didn't want us, eating animals, why did he make them so tasty? And I still decide to eat meat because I think meat tastes fucking delicious.
Okay. Let's eat this. Hi Moses, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ed, and today I'm at the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. I have a banner that says, give me your best argument for not being vegan.
All right.
You very kindly sat down, so thank you very much. And yeah, feel free to let me know what your best argument is.
Yeah, it's basically just one sentence, If God didn't want us, eating animals, why did he make them so tasty?
Well, we could say that about any animal though, couldn't we?
I mean, honestly...
Why do people always gotta bring God into the situation? I feel like that's a cop-out answer. You can't use your imaginary friends to hurt animals. You can't do that. That's cheating.
Okay, here's something on my bucket list. By the time I die, I want to try one of each kind of meat I can. That includes human meat. I think cannibalism is alright as long as it's ethical. You know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, if I had a friend who lost a leg in a motorcycle accident, you can bet I'd ask him. This sounds weird. I know. I acknowledge that. At least once, I want to try human meat. Probably won't ever get to, but we can all dream, I suppose.
It's a bizarre thing to dream about, I guess. But why do you want to do that? What's the mentality behind that aspiration?
Right.
Meat just tastes really good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's funny, obviously.
So you would eat a human just because meat tastes good?
With the cannibalism scenario, you kind of chose a scenario where the consumption of your friend's leg would be kind of consensual,
Yes, of course.
But obviously what we do to animals, it isn't that same scenario. It's a different scenario where we kill them specifically for eating meat. So with the human, you wouldn't do that, but with the animals, you would. So why is it moral to kill an animal unnecessarily just because you want to consume their flesh?
Well, I feel like it's kind of like what happens in nature. Animals eat each other.
Yeah.
We've evolved with, tendencies that are, omnivorous. So, we have, canine teeth. So I think from an evolutionary standpoint, I think it kind of makes sense for us to eat that. I feel like, of course, every person's body is different, but I feel like for the vast majority of us, we should have at least a little bit of meat in our diet. So I definitely think that a lot of the things we do is not sustainable, and that includes the cultivation of crops and, just domesticating animals as well. So there's definitely a lot of things we can do better. But, I think it's just a tough scenario, and it's going to take us a much longer time to figure that out, and, how to, figure out, like, the ethical boundaries and stuff. And, I feel like, personally, like, I don't work on a farm, or I don't work in, like, a butcher factory, or, like, butcher meat. I've done it before, but, it's like, so I don't see that, and maybe if I were around it more, it could change my opinion, but I think that I'd probably be unfazed by it, you know what I mean?
Maybe. Well, maybe not, who knows? To kind of go back to what you said about the natural argument, of course animals do eat other animals, but other animals also rape one another, they kill members of their own species, they commit infanticide.
They eat their baby. Lions eat their babies sometimes, just because they want to. Lions eat meat, so eat meat. Lions eat their babies, so eat your babies.
But we wouldn't say those things are moral just because other animals do them and just because they happen in the natural world.
Yeah, of course.
Would you agree?
Yeah, we have a social contract with each other, as sentient beings, So in that way, I do believe there's a fundamental difference, between us and animals in that regard is our ability to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
I'm sure if animals had that same ability that we do to, create, innovate, make tools and stuff, like they'd probably do something similar, in my opinion.
Well, I mean,
that's just speculation, of course.
And even if that is true, that doesn't provide us a justification to do what we do to them now, because obviously, we have the intellect to be able to rationalize the consequences of our choices. And so if we recognize that we can choose to live in a way that minimizes suffering or live in a way that chooses to increase suffering, I think morally outside of the context of what other animals would do in our situation, the situation we're in is one that is only relevant.
I don't think people really realize that nature in the wild can be pretty bizarre. They rape one another. They just, nature is not a good model for our behavior.
Or is the only one that's relevant. So in a situation where we have the choice to reduce the suffering of animals, why wouldn't we do that?
I definitely think we should. As it is, what we're doing now, for sure, there's lots of gray area. And the way I've rationalized this before is like, you know, if there were some other alien species who were to come and, you know, like do like fuck up shit at Earth here, you know what I mean, and they were cultivating us, well, I mean, you know, the bill comes due, you know what I mean? I feel like we wouldn't have a right to be angry in that regard, so.
He said, the bill comes due. Aliens come down and they try to kill you and enslave you, and your only thought is, oh, well, we ate other animals, so I guess the bill comes due. It's our turn now.
You know, what goes around comes around.
Well, it probably won't come around, though.
Who knows? You never know, you know what I mean? I believe, you know, aliens are real, but, you never...
How do you get from aliens are real to aliens are going to come down and enslave us and do the same thing that we do to animals?
No, maybe they're hostile, maybe they're not, but in the end, you know, that's how I feel. I feel like if those things were happening to people around me, close family members, maybe I'm a little unhinged, perhaps, but, you know, like... I honestly feel like it is what it is, and we just have to try and make the best of it. Of course, if we can, try to...
The idea that aliens have come down to enslave and eat your family members, and you're just like, yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, I can't do anything about it.
Okay, he made Earthling Ed. I keep getting confused with the documentary, which was inspired by his name anyway. But yeah, he even made Ed Winters laugh. So basically he's like, oh, okay, the aliens came down. Oh, look, they're enslaving my family. They're killing and torturing my family. Well, the bill comes due. This is the shit that carnists have to do in order to stay illogically consistent.
You know, you can't really change the situation, but you can change your mindset on the situation. You know what I mean?
That sounds very whimsical. And but you know, fundamentally, we're talking about...
He said, that sounds very whimsical. I gotta use that.
Alien life that doesn't exist. But we are the ones who right now have the choice of being hostile or kind, and we have chosen to be hostile.
We should make every effort we can to be less hostile, but currently I don't think a lot of people have it in them to, you know, like, really push for that. I think a big part of it is the fact that people aren't really aware of what goes on in these industries and how inhumane it is. Because I'll admit, it is inhumane. It's not, you know, like, it's kind of messed up.
So why support it then if it's inhumane, and aspirationally we should try to be as, you know, least hostile as possible? Why support something that is hostile and is inhumane then?
I love Earthling Ed. Please go Earthling. I'm just going to call him Ed Winters. I love Ed Winters. Please go and subscribe to Earthling Ed, the channel. Please go do that because this guy is awesome in every way possible, by the way.
Honestly, I think Earth's population is kind of unsustainable, and this is one way to sustain that population, as unethical as it is. You know, if there comes a point where we have a population decrease, then I think what, you know, you're proposing, which is, you know, like, you know, it might be a little more feasible economically. I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on it, is the economics of the situation, and, you know, it's still like, you know, processed food, meats, you know, all that. It's kind of cheap. You know what I mean?
Why is it cheap?
You know, I'm not too sure. You know, could be some arbitrary reason, but, you know, it could be that
tax dollars, subsidies, there's a hint.
The value of, you know, life that we attribute to animals is just nothing, which is unfortunate, you know.
Well, I mean, that's definitely one part of it, but we also subsidize these industries to the tune of billions of dollars every single year, so it's actually kind of a false impression of how economical the industry is. It's only cheap because we pour billions of dollars of taxpayers' funds into these industries to drive down the costs.
Animal products is only cheap. Did you hear what he just said? Animal products is only cheap because our tax dollars subsidize the hell out of it. So really, if it wasn't for our tax dollars and subsidies, the price of meat would, like, throw people off to the point where people wouldn't even want to buy it. People would not want to buy it if people were paying the true cost of meat and dairy and eggs. I mean, like, it just the cost of the environment, the labor, it's like so labor intensive and resource intensive, not an industry that is sustainable at all.
Whereas actually, if we took out the taxpayers' funds, it wouldn't be cheap at all, because the cost of raising animals is very expensive, especially when you factor in environmental costs and such as well. You'd mentioned earlier about how we've evolved. We've eaten meat. You know, we have canine teeth, and it's kind of like this part of like some sort of natural order, if you like. It's kind of what you're insinuating. Yeah. Okay, great. Look, I would never deny the fact that we have eaten animals throughout history, but the point is, we have a choice now that we didn't have in the past.
Right, like when we were enslaving each other since the beginning of history. We don't have to keep enslaving each other just because slavery is an early part of human history.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that historical precedents or looking towards our history is a good idea for determining what we should do right now. Do you agree with that?
I feel, again, like it goes down to a big part of it. It's out of sight, so it's out of mind.
Right.
And again, if people saw the atrocities that these things happen, their minds would almost definitely change, and the vast majority of people. So a big part of it, I think, is on like what you're doing here, which is educating people on that and having discourse. I think that's really the best way we can get around this. And I feel like it's going to take us a while to get there.
He keeps mentioning other people, and I noticed that every time people are on the hot seat, they like to talk about what other people are doing. Oh, well, if other people saw the documentaries and they saw what was happening, then they would change. Like, why? Forget about other people. What about you? What about you?
Of course, if we can minimize our footprint, I think we should, Like, I believe in being nice to people. That extends to animals, I'm not just going to, find a pigeon and kick it, you know what I mean?
But you do pay for people to do much worse to other animals. If kicking a pigeon is wrong, then how is cutting the throat of a pig morally justified? If kicking a dog is wrong, then how is forcing chickens to live in abject cruelty for 6 weeks in a barn? How are those things moral if we've already assigned certain things like kicking to be immoral?
Not.
Because if you kick a dog and it's in public eye, everybody can see it. You can see that happening, that violence. You can see it from like firsthand. Whereas what we're doing to these animals, we're paying other people to kill animals on our behalf. So really, we're just contract killers.
But people aren't aware of those moral implications of...
You are.
I am, and I still decide to eat meat because I think meat tastes fucking delicious.
Okay. But see, and there's the contradiction, because it's not just that people are unaware, because even in a situation where you are aware, you're still choosing to continue consciously inflicting harm, which you know is inhumane and which you know
Right, so what's
contradicts the
the
values.
point? Because he just said that people aren't going to stop eating meat because they're unaware of it. But he just said that he's aware of it, but he's going to keep eating meat. So what was your point? What was your point? That means you're not going to change regardless of whether you know or you don't know.
Have towards
The other
animals.
thing too, which is societally, like just everyone at large, I think is kind of responsible, which is why it's on, people like you to, like educate us. And I'm not saying this is all your fault either. Don't.
He said it's on people like Ed Winters to educate everyone. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
Confuse me there. But what I mean is I just feel like there are so many people who already eat meat. It's a precedent. It's a tradition, a culture, evolutionary thing that people pick up on. Whatever you want to call it, it's something people do, and people are very resistant to change, in my opinion.
Yes.
And
He's saying people again. People are very resistant to change. Let's just talk about you. Are you resistant to change?
again, the best way we can combat that is through educating people and having things like this happen. So I feel like even if I decide to stop eating meat personally, it's going to be inconsequential compared to, I guess, like a group of people. I know that's also a weird argument to have as well.
Why is that?
Hold on a second, my dog is calling me. I think he's thirsty. All right.
Weird.
What's
You know, like
going
a group
on? What's
of people.
happening?
Personally, it's going to be inconsequential compared to, I guess, like a group of people. I know that's also a weird argument to have as well.
Why is that weird?
Well, because, it's people tend to follow one another, so sometimes it can just be one person to change the mind of many. But I feel like my opinion on that is inconsequential compared to the grand scheme of things.
But if everyone had that same opinion, then nothing would ever change.
Nothing would change.
And anything that's ever changed has only changed because a group of individuals changed it. So if everyone has the same thought of, well, I'm just one person, then nothing will ever change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to individuals to form kind of movements or groups where change can happen as a collective.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was getting at the whole time when he kept bringing up other people. He's bringing up other people because he's basically saying that he don't feel like he has the strength to go vegan because other people aren't going vegan. Bite Size Vegan made a video basically doing an analysis on the psychology of eating meat and why people still do it. And basically she concluded that the reason why people don't go vegan is because people don't go vegan. People don't go vegan because people don't go vegan. It's not normalized enough in society, so that's why people aren't doing it. But if more people saw other people doing it, then they'd feel more inclined to do it because they feel like they have someone like someone who's inspirational to them, for lack of better words. Like they can seek inspiration in somebody who's actually getting it done.
But
That's why it's very important to go vegan and stay vegan.
it requires individuals within that collective to acknowledge that they have a responsibility to be a part of it.
I agree. But also I like eating meat, so I think we're at a little bit of a disconnect there.
Well, let's just. I know I don't want to keep you forever, so let's just linger on this point a little bit longer.
Okay.
If the justification for eating animals and animal products is enjoyment, does that mean that anything is permissible to do to an animal as long as the person, carrying out that action enjoys the consequence of what it provides?
Right, like, kicking a dog, like we said earlier. Like, if you kick a dog and you find enjoyment in that, does that make it justifiable?
No, and I would say that because of this, there's like sustenance, so like our bodies need fuel in order to keep on going. I understand we can get that fuel from, just anything else that we eat
So then what was your point in even saying that? He basically tried to throw out a point and then he debunked his point. He said, well, we eat meat because our bodies need fuel, even though we can get fuel from other things that we eat. So then we don't need to eat meat. So what was your point?
we can cultivate, it's like plants or, whatever, veggies or, people want to eat, But I feel like, because it's forced that reason of like sustenance. Well, I guess in that way you could say, oh, because someone wants to cannibalize another person, that's okay. Yeah. So again, I realize there's like a lot of contradictions, but I honestly I kind of think there's like a beauty in that,
There's a beauty in contradictions? No. There's only irritations in contradictions.
Weird way,
yeah.
But
well, maybe for you, but that's because you're not the victim.
Right.
If you were the victim, then there wouldn't be any beauty in that.
If someone wanted to try to kill me to eat me, obviously I would try and fight to survive. But in the end, I think, I'd be dead, so I wouldn't care after that. But
you would be dead, so you wouldn't care after you're dead, but you would care while you're being tortured to death.
But at the same time,
you say that from a position of safety.
Right.
You say that hypothetically, yeah. Whereas the animals we're talking about aren't in a position of safety. So rationalizing how we would act in a position that we're not in is very different to trying to understand what they're enduring based on the position they are in.
It's gonna sound kind of weird, but these are the things that
go subscribe to Earthling Ed. This guy's amazing. I'm gonna keep saying that.
I think about every day, you know what I mean? Like, as I'm driving around in my car, I'm like, I drive a car that's, like about 60 years old, so there's no seatbelts. And a lot of stuff, I forgo lots of safety because I enjoy the act of driving that car. Sure. And I acknowledge that I could die anytime driving that car, so, so some of my hobbies are kind of dangerous with, like machinery and stuff. Yeah. So, like, I kind of face the idea of my own mortality every day in a weird way that I think maybe...
Yeah, but you're making that choice for yourself. If you want to choose not to wear a seatbelt when you get inside of a car and run the risk of possibly getting into an accident and flying through the windshield and cracking your neck on the pavement, then that's your choice to do that. But these animals don't want to die. They actually care about their mortality, unlike you. So whether or not you care about your mortality says nothing about the victims in the situation that do care about their mortality to live.
Some people don't. So in my case, I think, it's a weird rationalization. I don't necessarily know that it's valid, but it works for me,
Why would you say that you don't know if it's valid? It seems like an obvious reason why it's not valid.
Because it's full of contradictions. You can poke holes all through what I've said so far,
Well, the biggest hole from what you've just said is that you're consensually putting yourself in that position.
Right.
So if you're facing your own mortality based on a situation you've placed yourself in, well, that's on you because you've decided to drive a car that doesn't have a seatbelt. But again, the mortality of others that we're talking about is a situation they've not consented to be in. There's a situation that they try to escape when they can. So the difference is you've placed yourself there consensually, whereas you force the animals into those situations without any consent.
Yeah. I definitely see that too, so I kind of see where you're coming from there. But that's definitely something to think about.
In other words, if you want to die, that's on you. These animals don't want to die.
That's something I, is kind of been made aware of at that point. Yeah. So I'll definitely ponder that for a little bit. But I've got to go.
I know you
so
do,
it's been nice talking to you.
Likewise. And I guess the final question is just, if we can live in a way that reduces suffering,
we should.
Then we should. And that's all that veganism is acknowledging.
Yeah.
That we can live in a way that reduces the suffering of animals, so we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm really glad to be able to have these kinds of conversations with people because I think it's really important for people to hash these things out and talk with people you might disagree with in a respectful manner, of course.
I agree. All right, well, it's been nice meeting you.
All right.
Thanks so much. Have a little think about some of the things and drive safe, of course.
All right.
All right, take it easy.
Vegan Propaganda by Ed Winters. Okay, so I think that that was such a beautiful discussion. That guy is going to have a lot to think about for the rest of his life. People who talk and have discussions with other people all the time and then they kind of just forget them. But a conversation like this, you can't forget. That's what we mean by planting seeds and just, you know, talking to people and getting people to think. Although some of this guy's points were very irritating because he contradicted himself, at least he admitted to his contradictions. And more videos to come. Don't forget to give this video a like. And until next time, peace and love.